Carl Gustav Jung, one of the most influential figures in modern psychology, wrote The Undiscovered Self in 1957, a time when the world was navigating the aftermath of World War II and entering the Cold War era. This work, concise yet profound, addresses the relationship between the individual and society, the psychological challenges of modernity, and the spiritual crisis that Jung believed underpins the modern human experience. Jung's text can be read as a warning and a guide, a call for self awareness in the face of growing political, technological, and ideological pressures that threaten individuality. At its core, The Undiscovered Self explores the tension between the individual's inner life and the collective forces of society. Jung begins by expressing concern about the rise of mass-mindedness and totalitarian ideologies, such as those he witnessed in Nazi Germany and Stalinist Russia. He warns that these social forces endanger personal freedom, not only in a political sense but psychologically, by suppressing individuality and fostering conformity. In his view, individuals who fail to cultivate self-knowledge risk becoming unknowing participants in mass movements, losing their ability to act consciously and ethically. Jung introduces the notion of the undiscovered self, a concept central to the book. By this, he refers to the part of the individual that remains unknown, unexplored, or repressed. The undiscovered self includes the unconscious mind, personal complexes, and potentialities that, if not recognized, can dominate behavior and emotions without the individual's conscious awareness. Jung emphasizes that the journey toward self-discovery requires confronting one's own shadow, the collection of repressed instincts, desires, and impulses. For Jung, acknowledging the shadow is crucial. Unrecognized inner forces can easily project onto external groups or ideologies, fueling collective fanaticism and social conflict. A significant portion of the text deals with the dangers of collective psychology. Jung differentiates between the healthy collective, which fosters cooperation and cultural continuity, and the pathological collective, which manipulates individuals into uncritical conformity. He observes that modern society, with its emphasis on uniformity, mechanization, and political ideology, tends to encourage psychological dependence. The individual may lose touch with authentic selfhood, relying instead on external authorities or mass movements for guidance and identity. In this context, Jung critiques both political totalitarianism and what he sees as the unconscious mass psychological tendencies in democratic societies that can give rise to mob behavior and irrational conformity. One of Jung's core arguments in the book is the relationship between spirituality and self-realization. He argues that the spiritual dimension of human existence is often neglected in modern life, replaced by materialism, rationalism, or external political ideologies. This neglect results in a psychological imbalance that leaves individuals vulnerable to manipulation by mass movements. For Jung, religion and spirituality are not necessarily about dogma. Rather, they represent avenues for understanding the inner life and integrating unconscious contents into consciousness. By engaging with this inner dimension, individuals can cultivate autonomy, ethical responsibility, and a capacity for self-reflection. Jung also examines the role of science and rational thought. While acknowledging the tremendous achievements of modern science, he warns against the arrogance of believing that rationality alone can provide a complete understanding of human nature. He suggests that over-reliance on purely rational or materialistic perspectives leads to a neglect of psychological and spiritual realities, which are essential to mental health and social stability. The mechanistic worldview, Jung argues, may contribute to a sense of alienation, existential anxiety, and susceptibility to ideological extremes. Throughout The Undiscovered Self, Jung emphasizes the responsibility of the individual in confronting these challenges. He asserts that social and political stability begins not with external controls, but with internal psychological development. By understanding the dynamics of the psyche, recognizing the unconscious, and integrating one's shadow, individuals become capable of making conscious choices rather than being driven by unconscious impulses or social pressures. This personal development is both a moral and a practical imperative. It safeguards freedom and prevents the emergence of destructive collective phenomena. Jung introduces the concept of individuation, a cornerstone of his psychology, as the process by which a person becomes aware of and integrates the different aspects of the self. Individuation requires courage, honesty, and introspection, as it involves confronting uncomfortable truths about one's own nature. In the context of the undiscovered self, individuation is more than a personal goal, it is a social necessity. Jung posits that societies composed of individuated individuals are more resilient, humane, and capable of resisting the seductive forces of totalitarianism and mass conformity. An important theme in the book is the contrast between the individual's inner world and the collective pressures of the modern state. Jung is concerned with how political ideologies, whether fascist, communist, or mass democratic, exploit unconscious tendencies. He observes that when people fail to acknowledge their inner lives, they project their inner chaos onto external authorities, which can lead to both personal and societal destruction. Thus, the cultivation of self-awareness and inner balance is not merely therapeutic, but also a form of civic responsibility. Jung's warnings are both psychological and ethical. He asserts that individuals who are unaware of their own unconscious motivations are prone to extremism, fanaticism, and manipulation. By contrast, those who cultivate self-knowledge and confront their inner conflicts contribute to the moral and psychological health of society. In this sense, Jung's work is prescient. He anticipates many contemporary concerns about ideological polarization, media influence, and the psychological impact of mass culture. The style of the undiscovered self is notable for its clarity and urgency. Jung writes not as a detached academic, but as a concerned observer of human society, blending psychological insight with philosophical reflection. He draws on his experience as a clinician and theorist to illustrate his arguments, offering both warnings and guidance. The book yet it manages to address a wide array of topics: individual psychology, mass movements, spirituality, ethics, and the interplay between inner and outer realities. One of the enduring contributions of the undiscovered self is its insistence on the inseparability of personal and societal health. Jung's psychology is not limited to therapy or the study of individual pathology. It is deeply connected to the fate of civilization itself. He argues that the strength of a society is contingent upon the inner development of its members. Societies that neglect the inner dimension of the human psyche are prone to ideological manipulation, conflict, and dehumanization. In conclusion, The Undiscovered Self is both a critique of modern society and a guide for personal development. Jung warns against the dangers of mass-mindedness, ideological fanaticism, and the neglect of inner life, emphasizing the necessity of self-knowledge, spiritual awareness, and psychological integration. He calls for the courage to confront one's own shadow and to pursue individuation, not only as a path to personal fulfillment, but as a moral responsibility in the face of societal pressures. Jung's insights remain profoundly relevant today, as modern individuals navigate complex social, political, and technological forces that can obscure or suppress the authentic self. By understanding and integrating the undiscovered self, humans can cultivate autonomy, ethical clarity, and resilience against the dehumanizing tendencies of the collective, thus contributing to both personal and societal flourishing. The undiscovered self is, therefore, a timeless meditation on the inner life of the individual in a rapidly changing world, a call to awareness, responsibility, and the courage to remain oneself amid the pressures of conformity and external authority. Its enduring relevance lies in its combination of psychological insight, ethical reflection, and social critique, making it essential reading for anyone concerned with the interplay of self and society, both in Jung's time and today.